ਐਨਡੀਪੀ ਆਗੂ ਜਗਮੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਕਾਕਸੀ ਹਫ਼ਤਾਵਾਰੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ ਹਿਲਤੀ ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਐਲੋਨ ਮਸਕ ਦੁਆਰਾ ਟਵਿੱਟਰ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਸਤਾਵਿਤ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤੀ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਆਨਲਾਈਨ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਅਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਾਤਾਵਰਣ ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਤਾਜ਼ਾ ਰਿਪੋਰਟਾਂ ਤੇ ਚਰਚਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ।
And something that we've known for a long time, despite how serious the threat of the climate crisis is, despite how much people are worried by what it means for them, and despite what we've seen in the past years, extreme heat waves that have resulted in loss of life in BC and in Quebec. We've seen forest fires devastating communities. We've seen flooding. We're seeing more and more intense weather, and we know it's caused by the climate crisis. And as a result, people want to see real action. Well, despite real action, this Liberal government has a failure of a plan to respond to the climate crisis, and the Environment Commissioner laid out some of those concerns. First of all, a complete failure to have a plan for workers. We've always said if you want to fight the climate crisis, we cannot do that unless we've got a clear plan for workers, good jobs, good opportunities for work, and a real response to the threat of the global markets, which are changing course and changing direction, and we can't leave workers behind. There is no plan in what the Liberals have proposed to respond to that. Secondly, there seems to be a real disconnect. For fossil fuel companies, there's advantages and exemptions when it comes to the carbon tax. There are billions of dollars of subsidies increased. And for people, they are paying the price. People are struggling, particularly Indigenous communities. And what we're seeing is rural communities, Indigenous communities that are disproportionately impacted by the current approach. And finally, the emissions plan of this government is a complete fantasy. They are relying they're relying on the carbon capture, relying on hydrogen, but based on the Environment Commissioner, this plan is not going to achieve reductions. And we've seen that the Liberal government has been a failure on the environment. And so we're going to continue to raise concerns about that. We know that we need to act quickly. We need to act decisively to tackle the climate crisis. And we need to have a clear plan for workers to make sure there are good jobs, there are good opportunities, and there are in the steps we need to take to fight the climate crisis, whether it's in retrofitting large commercial buildings and public buildings, making sure they reduce energy demands and also reduce their costs. But these are some of the examples, making sure we electrify our country, connecting east-west corridors with electrification. There's lots of opportunities for good work, and we need a plan to do that. That plan is not there in this proposal by the government, and the Environment Commissioners laid that out very clearly. We are going to continue to be a voice for people, to fight to make sure workers are always a priority, and to protect our environment at the same time. Elon Musk is presenting that he is someone that defends free speech when he is clearly known to block critics, to be opposed to people's right to assemble in the form of a union. He is not a defender of free speech.